I wanted to follow up with this, like in terms of the education experience. How do you think being an Indian student has played into the way you've engaged with the protest? Has how being so far away from home has engaged with the way you've engaged with your activism?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think my parents are definitely pretty worried about it, you know. I also think that, you know, there's a lot of very specific messaging that's in all media, not just US media, that includes in India. So, you know, I'll get my grandmother or like teachers or things like that sending me messages being like, be safe, Kamna, like, be safe. But otherwise, I will say that there's always just a risk being brown. Like, this isn't particularly being Indian, but I do think that a lot of counter-protesters and a lot of admin crackdowns have been very clearly racist. You know, we had members of the Proud Boys here, which is a white nationalist militia, which is essentially like white supremacy there.
I see.
You know, where they were yelling at Mexican construction workers to build the wall. Someone was carrying swastikas. Like, a lot of the times, counter-protesters become very convoluted by, like, opportunists, like the Proud Boys who want to come in. So I think there's always a danger of being brown, especially in racially motivated counter-protesting.
Alright. There's been, like, talking about this sort of opportunism and even, like, counter-protesting, there's been a lot of extremism on both sides, perhaps, like on sometimes with statements made on the pro-Palestine side, sometimes with statements made on the pro-Israel side. Would you like to comment on this?
I mean, I think calls for violence on any side is wrong. I think it's important. Like, I don't think that that's good, and I also don't think that it stands with the values of what the Gaza Solidarity Encampment is trying to build.
What's the sentiment within regarding these sort of extreme statements?
I mean, it doesn't represent the encampment, and it doesn't represent the movement at large. You know, I'm not an organizer. I'm not planning a lot of things, but I do consider myself a part of the movement, and I do consider myself a big supporter for the movement. And so, you know, I have versed myself in what the movement is about, and it was never about violence or calling for violence.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Lastly, I just want to ask you, how do you feel about the extreme spotlight that's being put on this campus right now? We've had members of government coming and going. We had the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, come in, sort of condemn President Shafiq's response to this, saying she was not harsh enough on anti-Semitism. We had Representative Ilan Humar, who came in and stood in solidarity with the protesters. How does all of this spotlight make you feel?
I mean, honestly, it feels like a distraction. It feels like a distraction from where the spotlight is supposed to be, which is on Gaza right now. Like, it's not supposed to be, and this is something that, you know, I know the organizers have also been very clear about, you know, like, the spotlight should be on Gaza. I also, on politicians coming and showing their solidarity, I know even AOC was here. I mean, I just think it can get a bit hypocritical because, you know, when I look at Biden's Instagram posts or AOC or a lot of these politicians, is like on either side, you know, Republicans, of course, will condemn the anti-Semitism and not particularly talk about the other side. But on opportunists, I will say that I don't understand how this government can call for aid and call for the end of the violence while at the same time providing funding for the weapons that cause it. That just doesn't make sense to me. So focus on the actual cause. That's all I have to say.
Alright. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, Nayantara. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Thank you for sharing your story.